This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I promise it's a good one. It's Snowmageddon. That means all you guys are either shoveling snow or staying home or driving kids to daycare or trying to figure out what to do with the kids who are staying home. Enjoy this broadcast because it's going to be a good one. We're going to share stories about how the hell we do work in the age of 24/7 news. Big news broke for Michigan. We're going to talk about it. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, joining me to break it all down. You all heard it. Jim Harbaugh is back. I want to get his sense of how this all played out because literally he found out 10 minutes ago. He's already read my article at SIL Lions. My cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, my friend? Big news at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh's back, baby. Are we celebrating? Are we burning some couches? What are we doing? I know you're excited because Jim Harbaugh flirted with the NFL, but he's coming back, baby. The band is back together. Harbaugh, year 8. Stamp it.
I'm so embarrassed. Like the way this whole thing played out was so embarrassing. Like, you're the University of Michigan, right? You are the Big Ten champs of last season. You are the team that got to play in the college football playoff. You were the number 1, or you were the number 2 ranked team. There was an argument to be made that you should be the number 1 ranked team going into that college football playoff. You ended up getting housed by Georgia. We know the deal. We know how it all ends. But there were highlights of this past season, and there are things that you can etch your name to. And then you have this boob who led this team to all of those things and was part of getting the name etched in all of those accolades. This boob wants to go out there and tell recruits that he's taking a look at the NFL and he's having conversations with the NFL and that he's going to go and schedule Zoom meetings with teams from the NFL and then hop on flights to go have those meetings with teams from the NFL to only drag this out for what feels like an eternity. I think it was maybe a month and a half, to then turn around and tell the school, oh no, I'm coming back, guys. Like, how do you turn around and look at the university that you basically have shit over for the last month and say, no guys, I'm coming back. Everything, just joking, just kidding. Okay. Playing with you guys. I'll be back. Don't worry. We're going to go for that Big Ten championship again.
See, Adam, you're a humble man. You're a humble man. You keep things in perspective. You want to look to the things that are right and things like that.
I can't help but laugh about it, man. It's
it is.
You can't make this shit up. That's the problem.
See, you're operating from the employer perspective, which is Michigan, and you're right. They did not deserve to be kind of treated like second fiddle. Okay, but this is what happens. Unfortunately, Jim Harbaugh, in order to reach the height of success at that level, you gotta have some sort of ego. Whether it be out of whack, too high, narcissism, you have to have some level of drive and things like that. So, when you're a coach, the ultimate job is the National Football League. It's the gateway of heaven. It's the land. It's basically that first time you get some. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling. Your body tingles for the first time. It's like, whoa. And then guys get hooked and you want it for the rest of your life. Remember, Harbaugh came from the NFL. He got to dip his noodle into the soy sauce and it felt good. He almost got to the championship and just that close, losing to your brother. Okay. You know, at the dinner table on Thanksgiving, it's like, Jim, pass the potatoes. Oh, by the way, did you know I beat you? Or he flashes something. A little text, a little dig here or there flies out of the mouth of his brother. So he's got to live with that, being one game away, 60 minutes away from the ultimate glory. So you're Harbaugh and your employer and half of the fan base, let's say maybe 60% of the fan base, is like not appreciating you, is telling you you can't win enough, is telling you, leave, we're done. So, yeah, it's like, come on, push it. let's move this along. We want constant chatter of we want better. And then the ultimate disrespect, the university cuts his salary in half. Cause that never happens. Coaches don't, he's rich, but in the realm of ego, nobody gets their salary cut. Nobody. It's unheard of. It's the height of disrespect to a coach. So, when the opportunity comes to interview with teams, he takes it. You're Michigan. Now, from Harbaugh's perspective, I love it. You're flirting. You market yourself in the strictly business world. You now have built your brand further. But now it gets played out from the situation in regards to, I don't think the NFL wants Harbaugh. So what was the purpose of doing that? It is to probably leverage himself to just plant the seed of doubt that I could leave. That's all it is. And he's directly telling the university.
Well, wait, could he leave? Because it didn't really seem like anybody wanted him. Like, if he wanted to go so bad, why didn't you sign with Minnesota? Why didn't you sign with the Raiders, who are a hot mess? Why didn't you sign with the Dolphins, who are a hot mess right now? There are 1,001 teams. Go to Houston. Anybody. You've got a pedigree. Anybody would be willing to sign you. And nobody signed you.
Yeah, because
I'll be honest with you.
It's been 7 years.
No, here's the thing. No, hold on. This is the thing. I always found it funny when you would text me like these things about Jim Harbaugh. They were like supposed to be little digs and little jabs. And I would just look at them and I would laugh. Like, I wanted him gone last year. I wanted him gone 2 years ago. I want him gone now. I don't care that he won the Big Ten. I don't care that he finally beat Ohio State. I don't care that he was able to make it to a college football playoff. I still want him gone. I find him to be an embarrassment. Like, I don't care if it's his ego. I don't care if it's all the accolades that he's had. I don't care that he was one of Bo's disciples. I don't care about any of that. The way the man conducts himself and the way the man represents the university that I root for is a complete and utter embarrassment. And it gives people like you all the reason to sit on your podium and laugh and look down at regular Michigan fans. And it's just obnoxious the way that he goes on to carry himself. And that's my big issue. Just go. If you don't want to be here, just go. Nobody's forcing you to be here. You can leave. Don't go flirt with the NFL, and then when nobody comes calling, or if they do come calling, and you can't sign your name to a dotted line, don't come back with your tail between your legs. Just go. This is like having that one girl in your life, right, where she thinks she's hot shit all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you were dating her when she was probably about 25 pounds heavier. You liked a little bit of the thickums. And then all of a sudden, she either picked up a bad coke habit or she started hitting the gym, and all of a sudden she's down 25 lbs, and her titties look real nice, and her waist is real thin. And you know what? She's like, I'm just going to go over here, and I'm going to have a girls' night, and while I'm having a girls' night, we're going to go to the club, and I'm going to go dance with all the guys, and I'm going to go do all this, because it might be better over here. Well, you know what? If you want to find out if it's better over there, just take your narrow ass over there. Because when you were thickums, I was all with it. And now that you're skinny, I'm still here. But you know what? If you think you can do better, please, bitch, please, just go. Just go ahead. Take your shit and go. That's how I feel about Harbaugh. Take your shit and go. Get the hell out of here.
And look at some of the things. What do you think about this from The Athletic? Jim Harbaugh remained so unpredictable. And that had the Vikings worried the last 48 hours. He expressed a lot of interest in becoming the coach in a Zoom on Saturday. Then on Wednesday, he changed his mind from Chad Graff. And he's a blue checkmark dude, Minnesota Vikings writer for The Athletic.
I mean, is he not the most bizarre person you've ever watched or had somewhat of an encounter with? He's just a different dude, and it's kind of obnoxious. Like, he's just weird, man. Like, how are you gonna get that close with Minnesota, hop on a plane, and then, according to reports, show up there and be like, nah, guys, I'm sorry, I'm just wasting your time. I'm going to show myself out. Like, what? Who does this? This is also the same man that slept in a treehouse with a high school kid. So, I mean, take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, so it's, look, I'll look at it like this. I don't care what happens at Michigan as long as it favors Michigan State. So, in my mind, I'm not terribly concerned about Jim Harbaugh returning because I think the momentum maybe kind of sways to the fact that Michigan peaked. Now, I think Hig McNamara and J.J. McCarthy are intriguing. I like the fact that you guys scheduled a cupcake schedule for the next couple years. I think that's fair to do. But in the end, if we look at the big picture question is...
You do know those schedules are made like years in advance, right?
Yeah, I know, but it's still soft.
It is soft.
And I look at it and I say, can Michigan get back to the college football playoff? Yes. Can they compete with the level of Georgia, Alabama, and the speedy SEC? No. But not many can. And right now, the Holy Grail is getting to the college football playoff because the disparity between the teams is so crazy. So he got there. He can notch that on his resume. That's a major, significant accomplishment. And he can put it on his resume. So for Harbaugh, I think flirting with the NFL is just something that he obviously did to leverage the best situation for himself. And really, it's something that he's passionate about. I think he would, if offered a job and he really, really was given the treatment like, you're our guy, this is what we're going to do, you have your general manager, you have your say, this is in place, he'd consider it. But now I have to ask you, are you comfortable with having your Nick Saban, who teases constantly leaving seemingly every year? I mean, literally, it's January following the season, it's Harbaugh rumor month. And it's great for me because I can dip away from the Lions for a minute and cover Harbaugh. It's great because the Michigan fan base is so passionate and so riled up. They want to be investigative sleuths in regards to all these sources talking to all these different outlets. And I can just sit back and cover and say, this was said here, this was said here, social media reacts here, and I can sit back and go, whew, one less article I have to research for the Lions. I can talk about Michigan. It's great, and people like it because I'm a Spartan guy, and they can attack me and say, oh, you're just a Spartan slap, and da-da-da-da-da, and they have a reason to check us out. So, and I just got one now as I'm talking. Someone sent a great one at Detroit Podcast, coming in third. I'm going to tag you in it. It's really good. I love it. And for us, it makes it fun because you guys look out for us to respond to and to give us receipts and to point back to shit that we say. And we love it. That's what we love. That's why I love doing this. That's why I'm scarfing down pancakes trying to get to talk to Adam. I'm like, oh, sorry, bro. I'm really sorry. This shit came out. We got delayed. It's about 10 minutes. But to do this for me is great because I think I would act like Harbaugh, but maybe not so publicly. Like I would just be in Ward's office every year. I'd just be like, look, Ward, I'm going to go test the NFL. I want to see about getting a raise. And he'd be like, again? I'd be like, yeah. And then just go out there and not have it so much where there's so much speculation because it does impact someone like you, Adam, a fan, a supporter, and things like that. But I just think that for Michigan, I think they should start to look at what's next because either you're trying to win it all or you're stagnant. And right now I just think that Michigan as a program got to a nice level, but is that the best level that they can get to? So we'll see. But how would you act? Let's put yourself in Jim Harbaugh's shoes. You just got off put yourself in Jim Harbaugh's shoes. You just got off the college football playoff train. You had a successful season. You got some momentum built. How would you act? How would you respond to shit like this after a successful season, knowing there's bigger dollars in the NFL, which is less work? You're pampered. It's a great gig, and you don't have to recruit. You don't have to deal with flip-flopping young kids and their agents and things like that. I think it's just a better gig. The NFL is a better gig. But I think the game passed him by, and I think he's strictly using it to see what's out there and to just boost his own ego to feel important. I don't think he's serious about going back.
I mean, you can have your agents conduct sideline conversations with other teams and other front offices. That's what most respectable coaches do who want to make that jump. You know, you don't ever hear about, I don't know, give me a college coach a recent college coach that just made it to the NFL. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but you don't hear other college coaches going out there and doing these things. If you want to go to that next level, there are ways to conduct yourself and there's ways to do things. This is why, and look, you can get mad at me if you want when I'm going to say this, but this is why a lot of people have possibly discussed this man possibly being on the spectrum, because his social cues are just so off, and he is so just sometimes in left field when everybody else is playing in right field. It just doesn't equate. You're just looking at him like, what? How did we get here? Why are we here? There are ways that you can do different things. You can conduct business as a professional. He has an agent. That's your agent's job to go out there and test the water for you. So that way when the season ends here at Michigan, you can go to Ward. You can say, look, I've got 4 teams that are interested in me. I want to go take interviews with them. I'd like to keep it as low profile as possible. Can we do this? I am looking for a raise. So if you want, come at me with your best offer, because I'm going to go and explore these different options. Like, there's a way to conduct yourself as a man, not as a sideshow, not as a carnival act. And that's all he's done. That is pretty much what he has brought to the University of Michigan. His first 3 years, maybe 4 years as the head coach at the University of Michigan was just a circus. It was him sleeping over at other people's houses. It was him doing these weird hype videos with no-name rappers. It was him doing everything but winning on the field. And then he got schooled a little bit and he toned it down. And then he got schooled a little bit more and he toned it down some more. And then the COVID season happened. And there was nothing to talk about because you were 2-4 and you basically skipped out on the rest of your games that season. And it was a complete and utter mess. Only for you to come back this year and you actually put together a winning season and you look slightly decent. To then go ahead and just dial up the freak show again and you just want to perform circus acts. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me how you can represent and claim that you love a university so much, especially since you've been there. That's your alma mater. Like, that's not like... It's not like Mel Tucker going to Michigan State, right? Like, Mel Tucker didn't graduate from Michigan State, right? I don't think he did. But Mel Tucker didn't graduate from Michigan State. So, like, he doesn't have that loyalty. There's not that tie-in. There's not that thing that holds you accountable. Yet Mel Tucker doesn't conduct himself like a freak show. Harbaugh went to the university, won at the university, was a captain of that football team, and conducts himself like a freaking weirdo. Pisses me off. I don't get it.
Oh, the saga ends. Do you think the Vikings job would have been appealing? Would he have been successful there? I felt like the Raiders would have been maybe the best chance. Maybe the Dolphins would have been a surrounding environment that would have been better. But I just, in talking to people in the league, they just feel like the game passed him by. 7 years. That's an eternity, bro. I don't see Michigan having really to worry seriously about him returning unless it's a situation that is perfect for him. And I don't see that emerging nowadays. I think young, offensive, and like you said to your point, look, we can't say he's on the spectrum, but we can say that he does act weird.
I'll imply it.
What we can say is that Harbaugh acts irregardless of what people think. He does not care, and he doesn't have to. He's got Michigan by the balls, and I think that bothers you a little bit because at any moment he could leave. But realistically, I don't see it. I don't see the fit. I don't see an organization wanting to do that. I don't. Now, if he was black, now I think maybe he could have got the Vikings job right away. Especially in this era, boom, he probably could have got it right away. But in this situation, right now, with Harbaugh being now a white coach, an older coach, and a coach who's been away for 7 years, oh hell no. I think that, and all kidding aside, I think that Jim Harbaugh, his days in the National Football League are done. I don't see a scenario, a team that would have done well with him. Do you?
No, I do feel like this was probably the last hurrah, and maybe that's why this drug on so long, because I think maybe deep down he realized it, because you yourself said it. There's a changing landscape in the NFL with head coaches. You look at the 2 head coaches that are playing for a Super Bowl. You even go back to last week and you look at the 4 head coaches that were playing for a chance to play in a Super Bowl. And 3 of those 4 head coaches, they are all young men under the age of 40, all offensive mind. Actually, all 4 of those coaches are great offensive minds. So it is a changing landscape. It is evolving, and I do think that you do have to be a bit of a younger coach. I do think that offensive minds are rewarded a little bit more than defensive coaches are. And yeah, Jim Harbaugh is supposed to be an offensive mind, but it's a different league. It's a different style of play. It is no longer you run the football. I mean, you look at what Michigan did this past year, and yeah, it worked out for them. It was successful. But it was legitimately the 3 yards in a cloud of dust mantra. The thing was they had a really good offensive line that could push guys six yards off the ball. So instead of 3 yards, it was 6, maybe 7. Every now and then Blake Corum would break a 15, 20, 35-yard run, and he would end up in the end zone. So it was a lot of that old school football. That doesn't really play in the NFL anymore. I mean, look at the teams. How many running backs do you know run the ball between the tackles 15 times a game? It's very rare. I think maybe the Tennessee Titans might be one of the only teams that do that, and that's because they've got Derrick Henry, who's a thumper, and he's a truck, and you can't stop him. Everybody else, when they utilize their running backs, no longer are they strictly between the tackles. It's a lot of stuff outside. It's a lot of guards pulling. It's a lot of throwing the ball out of the backfield and utilizing that as your run. It's a lot of that play action. And I don't know if Jim Harbaugh has that in his tool belt. I don't know if that's part of his repertoire or part of what he is. And yeah, old dogs can learn new tricks, but I don't think he's learning those new tricks. So I do think maybe this was the last hurrah for him. This was his last chance to see if maybe he could go there. And look, by all accounts, it sounds like Minnesota was extremely interested, and it was Harbaugh who basically waved the white flag at the 12th hour.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is what it is, but I don't know if this happens again. I think Jim Harbaugh at some point has to figure out what he wants to do. Do you want to coach Michigan? Do you want to go coach someplace else? Do you want to be in the NFL? And basically shit or get off the pot, because you can't do this, because it ruins recruiting. How do you turn around and how do you go back to that team that you had, that team that won the Big Ten, that team that competed in a college football playoff game for you? How do you go back to them and say, hey guys, I'm back. Let's go. Like, if I was in that locker room, I'd be pissed. I'd be looking at my head coach like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, are you here or are you not here? You talk about us all being all in and being for one. Like, but you're the one who's out there looking at taking NFL jobs, and you're the one who's interviewing, and you're the one who's trying to leave us? Like, where are we at here? Like, look, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think this Michigan team, and I don't know who's going to be the quarterback. I don't know what that offensive line is going to look like. I don't know what that running game is going to look like. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think that Michigan team looks anywhere close to as good as that Michigan team looked this year. I think this Michigan team struggles. I think their record will be inflated because they play a couple of cupcakes, but I think they are going to struggle when it gets into Big Ten play, because I think what he did this season is going to damage that roster, and it's going to make it hard for those guys to play for him and want to win for him. And that was a lot of what Aiden Hutchinson talked about this season. The guys came back. They wanted to play for him. They wanted to play for themselves. They wanted to win. They wanted to do this thing. That's how they refer to it. They wanted to do this thing. And I don't know if they have that because of what Jim Harbaugh did for the last 30, 60 days.
Yeah, it's a wild, wild situation. Drawing to a close in regards to all the reports, all the sources. There's a handful of Michigan reporters that are definitely ones to pay attention to that you know you can trust. And now you know there's ones that pull the trigger on something just for potentially. I mean, look, here's the thing. And to talk about this job for a little bit, you can't go live with that report unless you know he signed the deal. You know what I mean? I don't think you could actually go and say, because you ruin your credibility. You can't go out and say, Jim Harbaugh's leaving. You know what I mean? Unless you know the deal's signed, you know, you get the clicks, then the person got a lot of retweets, a lot of attention. A lot of people looked at it, you know, but it's one of those things where I just think until in this situation, because it's so big and because your credibility's on the line, I think that the short-term gain is not worth it to report that Jim Harbaugh was leaving unless you knew the ink was dry. There's nothing wrong with being second to Adam Schefter. The dude is connected. I mean, he's the biggest Michigan alum in the sports world. It's okay. I wouldn't sacrifice my credibility to report on Jim Harbaugh, especially if you know he's a flake. So I just think that it was wild. I enjoyed it from afar because I obviously get to take advantage of it and make it as content for the Alliance site and on a podcast. So it's entertaining, but I could see your position, cuz, where you're annoyed, where you value the Block M, and Jim Harbaugh took something away from it. We air a podcast called the Michigan Podcast. Comes out every other Wednesday in the off season and every single week during the season. And Steve Dace is such a talented, smart individual. And he was like, remember the mantra that we all like? The team, the team, the team. And, you know, we can't say that person's name anymore because it's persona non grata. But Bo was somebody that emphasized the team. And the team was important. You know, the team, doctor, is also important to go visit every once in a while.
You're the worst. But I was wondering where you were going with that. That was
like
a
that
bit of a stretch.
Did you like that? Did you like that?
It took a minute, but yeah.
That's how you deliver it. You gotta kind of go around it. And the best part about us is we tell our jokes and then we stop it and then tell about our jokes. That's what I like about us. But the team is important. And I think Jim Harbaugh went away from that by doing this thing. And I think it offsets what people were trying to do and what the university is about, which is really put the needs of everybody else ahead of yours. But look, this is business. And so I can respect what Jim Harbaugh did. I don't have any problem. I'm not emotionally attached to Michigan other than wanting to see them fail. But your perspective is fair. I think a lot of fans are put off by this because they said, yeah, they're like, you made us wait 7 years and now you're going to dick us around? Come on now.
I mean, I feel like that's like the worst part about all of this, right? It took you 7 years to make it to the college football playoff to get blown out by Georgia. And look, I think a lot of it has to do with the way the university is structured and the university is set up, just with what they want to do with NIL and in the transfer portal. But it took you 7 years to finally get here. I mean, that stuff's all pretty much brand new this year. And now all of a sudden you want to go someplace else? Like, wait, what? Like, you should be building upon what you did last year. Instead, you're basically tearing it down from the inside out. Doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't get that. I don't get that mentality. I don't get that mindset. I don't understand it. And it frustrates me as a Michigan fan, and it frustrates me as just a onlooker of what goes on in team sports. Like, you play team sports, yes?
Yes, I have. I play team sports.
Okay. You play team sports. I play team sports currently. One bad apple can completely ruin a locker room. And when your head coach basically does these things where he seems like he's putting himself before the team and he's putting himself, like he's basically making it to where it seems like he doesn't want to be part of that team, it makes it really freaking hard to want to come in and have that same level of buy-in that you had last year, especially when that same level of buy-in didn't help win you a championship. Won you a Big Ten title, but you lost in the semifinals of the college football playoff. And it just becomes much more difficult to do these things that you, as a head football coach of a program like the University of Michigan, should have the expectations of doing. He does nothing to help himself. He is constantly just setting himself behind the eight ball. And this right here, what we've gone through for the last month plus, has put himself, and I think has put parts of this team behind the eight ball.
All right. Steve gets in right away. I love Steve. He on Twitter at Michigan Podcast. He gets in. You never know if it will be good or bad, but with Jim Harbaugh, it will always be weird.
Dude, and that's accurate. Like, Steve's like spot on, man. Like, yeah. You don't know if it'll be good, you don't know if it'll be bad, but you for sure as hell know it's going to be something strange and it's going to be outlandish. Steve, great tweet. Great tweet. I need to go find this and like this. This is a great tweet.
Yeah. DJ OBY44. I'm happy I think he's got a good handle on his team, and they are very good. Let's win next year. Let's win the whole thing next year. #GoBlue. Orum's Forum, a really high-volume tweeter. I like him. Sometimes gets in to challenge us, but he gets in not surprised at all. It was a joke from the get-go, LOL. And then, like you said, Thirsty Schlichel. Oh, my God. Thirsty Schlichel.
Did you realize he's still teaching at the university? That is crazy to me.
Yeah, the Knish rolls strong. You know, Professor's got it good, man. It's a crazy gig, and I can't believe that, yeah, he wasn't yanked. I mean, just, okay, on that quick front, on a side note, you can do the philandering, but if you're going to use a company email to do it, that's traceable. That means you're beyond stupid, that you're beyond reproach, that you think that you're not going to get caught by acting a fool and by, you know, cheating on your significant other. So I don't get it all. But, you know, Thirsty Schlichel, he messages at Detroit Podcast, we are going to go through this again next year. And again, I think that's what it is that the more success that Harbaugh has, the more flirting he wants to do. And that's what I replied back to Tom Mazaway. I said, look, Harbaugh cheated, but Michigan's too desperate to leave. And that's just what it is. Michigan, you know, from a power perspective, could have just said, you want to do that? Bye. We'll just go get somebody bigger. You know, and that's the brand that I thought Michigan was. But, you know, they got their prodigal son, and he basically bent him over. He bent him over a barrel and said, wait for me, I'll come back, and then I'll stick it in. And that's what he did. He waited, and then he went and did his thing, kept the university waiting, and then he jammed Michigan when it didn't need that. This was an off season that should have been about building. It didn't need what he did to it. It's weird. It's unusual, but that's what Harbaugh did. And we'll see how it plays out as we continue to move forward now, because recruits are set. And I think the timing of signing day, you know, the early signing period made Harbaugh happy. You know, like this week's signing day is kind of bullshit. It's now really come in December when early signing day comes. That's really the one that's most important. So this is insignificant. I think this will blow over. Memories will fade, and this will just be another blip on the radar. But let's see what damage this does. Let's see if there's any reverberating effects with this contract situation that Harbaugh is going to now address with Ward Manuel. So we'll see. I'm curious to get to see how it goes in regards to everything going on and things like that. So Ryan, I love Ryan. For let's see, somebody, a senior writer for The Athletic covering the NBA, he gets in and he writes to the notion that the Vikings are looking at the Rams OC, Kevin O'Connell. He says, for what it's worth, I'm told the Vikings did not make an offer to Jim Harbaugh. So there's no offer, no nothing. So what's there not to accept? What's there not to be weird? So it's just one of those things where I think with Harbaugh, he enjoyed the courting, and it's not a bad thing. I can't sit here and get mad at him. Who doesn't like to be, you know, courted and knowing? I think he knows. I think Jim Harbaugh is an above average person that can understand that Michigan is not going to boot him out. And it's just one of those deals where he knows the situation and he knows that he can flirt a little bit. Now, is he ever going to step out? No, he's not going to cheat. He's not going to eventually cheat. He's just going to keep looking and swiping and liking and all that stuff, but he's not going to cheat. He's a Michigan guy. And there's still strong support. I know Adam doesn't support that strongly as much, but I think he's got a lot of support among the fan base and among people that are important at the University of Michigan. So we'll see how it plays out in the coming weeks. Make sure you stay tuned to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Now, because I'm just curious, I do want to touch on the NFL. We're going to save some of the topics that we talked about in regards to our Super Bowl prep for next week, where we talk about what we think about the Bengals and the Rams and Stafford. We can table some of that. But I do want to get your sense before we talk about the Lions OC situation. Are you watching the Senior Bowl? Because for me, and this is another reason why covering Michigan and college athletics and the wild stuff in the NFL is great, because, you know, when you do this job, part of you feels like, okay, if you're someone covering the team and the team is doing a lot of stuff in Alabama, well, why don't you go down there? But, you know, I got kids and people will ask, well, why don't you travel? One, I've said it before, I am petrified of airplanes. I don't like the experience. I just am hypersensitive to flying. I don't like it. So it's something I don't really like and enjoy. And two, whether I'm right or wrong, I just don't find the value of traveling outside of Michigan to cover sports to be as worth it as like doing this. Like, boom, it happens. If I was in Alabama, I might be at dinner, I might be doing something. Boom, I was able to get a story, talk to Vito, talk to you, fire up a podcast, reset everything when I fucked up the microphone. So it's just for me way worth it. And then the kids had 2 days off, Wednesday and Thursday. And that's a whole other thing I could spiel about because Snowmageddon was a big disappointment. I took out the snow with one shovel. No big deal. And it's just, you get to hang out at home, sleep in your own bed and things like that. But you do feel like, well, you're missing out because Campbell talked, Holmes talked, all these prospects that you should know really deeply about. But that's just, on one side of it, if you're working in sports, it's a sacrifice you have to make. If you really want to do it and be a complete, full-on, quote-unquote, beat writer, then you need to do it fully. I don't consider myself that. I don't put that on my resume, say I'm a beat writer. I cover the Lions. I cover them every day. I inform, and I run a website, and I do a podcast. I always tell people forever and a day if I ever end up on television or end up on an appearance, I always put podcaster. That's what I want to be known as. But the ability to cover Michigan and people liking it, that's I'm so proud of you guys, and it's fueled by this podcast for everybody to peek in. And to cover Michigan is great because inherently everybody now knows there's a Spartan Slap that's at Detroit Podcast, and there's strong Michigan support. But remember, I always tell everybody there are other voices at this podcast. So just because, like I said, one is loud and obnoxious doesn't mean we don't balance it out. Adam, Vito, Cameron, it's like not even. It's like 5-to-1 ratio of Michigan supporters. I am the loudest because I have to overcompensate, but there's Michigan voices. I mean, Adam and I run the Michigan podcast on there. We have it. We don't even have a Michigan State dedicated podcast. So just the quick thing there is great to be able to veer off and cover the NFC, the NFL, the wildness that goes on, the playoffs, and then Stafford. Oh my God. Couple Stafford pieces. Boom. People wanted to cash in receipts, but we'll talk more about that next week regarding Stafford and what his chances are. But it makes it fun in that you can veer off from covering the Lions. It's rewarding. But to look at them right now and what's going on, I'm curious, are you into the Senior Bowl? Because I feel like I should be. I watch the practices. I'm definitely up to date on what all the scoutings are saying about the quarterbacks and stuff like that. But I like more of the written scouting reports than actually just sitting there watching these dudes throw and practice and stuff like that. I don't find myself liking practice a whole heck of a lot in regards to the pre-draft All-Star game and shit. Do you like this? I know you're a big Combine Underwear Olympics guy, but do you like the Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine? Are you into the shit?
I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if it wasn't talked about, it wouldn't even be on my radar. Like, the Combine is something I get up for. The Combine is something that I record on my DVR if I can't watch it at home. And I will spend a whole weekend just going through watching each individual group of players in all of their drills and just looking for that next athlete and trying to figure out a player comp for a guy that I'm really interested in or a couple of guys or position groups that I'm interested in. When it comes to the Senior Bowl, I'll be honest with you. You sent a great round of questions. I think it was this past weekend, and you're like, who has you most interested in the Senior Bowl? And I was like, shit, the Senior Bowl is going on? I was like, who are the Lions coaches even working with? Like, it's one of those things. It's not on my radar. It's never on my radar. And if I'm not told about it, I don't even know what's going on. And does that make me a bad sports fan or make me a bad sports analyst? I don't know if it does or not. It's weird to me, man. I don't care for the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, I like it. I like the way in which it goes in regards to kind of the setup. There's more talent. You get to see the likes of Malik Willis, Sam Howell, some quarterbacks, but man, the quarterback play early on, because it's kind of put together, these rosters are just put together quickly and they got to practice. So I think that in regards to the pre-draft, it picks up. The staff at the Senior Bowl has done a good job of moving things forward and things like that. But I think that you're not missing a whole heck of a lot by missing out on coverage of the Senior Bowl. It's stuff that where if there's a nick or injury, the player kicks out or doesn't get involved. So I'm kind of in the same boat. But GM Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell did talk a little bit. Campbell did say that he's going to interview potential offensive coordinator candidates this week. Probably will continue to evaluate Staley and Ben Johnson, who have elevated roles down in Alabama.
Is it weird that we are this far after the season is over and they still haven't interviewed an offensive coordinator yet?
Yeah, right. It's starting to get picked up now in regards to that. He still doesn't know yet. He's going to talk to Sean Payton at some point. He still doesn't know if he's going to call plays, which lends to me, my honest opinion as someone there that is paying attention to the Lions. I think that Ben Johnson's the guy. I think that you can allow the back and forth nature if Dan Campbell wants to call plays. But, Vito had something interesting to say in regards to looking at potential candidates who were a candidate who was a head coach. I don't think it happens, and I don't think you can sell it to the fan base because all the haters came out and people reacted to it strongly saying, no, by and large, 98% of people do not want former Chicago Bears head coach Matt Nagy to come in and take over the offense. And I can see why. People noted that he fired himself a couple times. The Bears offense outside of playing Detroit really struggled. Mitchell Trubisky did not really fully develop. And for whatever reason, the way in which Justin Fields was ill prepared really stuck out to a lot of people. And it had the vibe of a coach that maybe set up his player to fail, and maybe he wanted Nick Foles and did not prepare fully a player of Justin Fields' caliber. And especially, when there were games when the pocket wasn't being moved, the development of Fields in terms of his rookie year did not exactly go right. But Vito made points in that he does have a history with Andy Reid. He does come from that tree, and maybe the dual role of calling plays and being a head coach just really, really hits home to people, and they can't do it. But I would not do it. I have to veto Vito's idea there. But it was interesting. A lot of people reacted to it, but a lot of it was thumbs down. Did Vito overstep his bounds by throwing out a head coach in the division because of the fact that the odds are they'll promote from within?
No, I mean, look, I love the fact that Vito is thinking outside the box and possibly looking at a guy that I don't think most people would give a second thought to. You say Matt Nagy and everybody's instant reaction is no, hell no. I mean, preparing for this conversation, I was doing a little bit of research on Matt Nagy and trying to find something that I could basically counter argue because I pretty much knew where you were going to go. So I was trying to find something I could counter argue whatever you were going to throw. And I'll be honest with you, there's not a whole lot that's really great out there about Matt Nagy. There really isn't. He's a guy. And if you're going to hire a guy, why not just hire a guy that's on your staff? He's not a guy who I feel is deserving of getting that position. And look, I think Matt Nagy was an okay head coach. I don't really like a lot of the things he did as the Bears head coach. Now that being said, he's not coming in to be the Bear or to be a head coach. He's coming to the Lions to be an offensive coordinator. And maybe that's the role that suits him best. I mean, you can look at Jim Schwartz. I love Jim Schwartz as a head coach. Jim Schwartz I thought was fantastic as a head coach. That being said, he obviously didn't win enough and he had a lot of shortcomings. But Jim Schwartz's best role on a football team is obviously being a defensive coordinator. He is a great defensive mind. Probably not the best at being a head coach because he tends to burn a little bit hot and that gets him in trouble, especially when he throws flags when he can't throw a flag. And it costs you a touchdown and you end up losing a Thanksgiving Day game. But my point is, Jim Schwartz, probably not the best fit to be your head coach because your head coach generally has to be much more even and has to be mindful of everything that's going on in the game. your offensive coordinator or your defensive coordinator just has to know what the hell's going on with the offense or going on with the defense. So he might be a good offensive coordinator, but he's not the guy that I'm like, yeah, we got to go get that guy. Like, he's the dude, he's the guy. If I'm Dan Campbell, my list starts with Sean Payton to see if Sean Payton has any interest whatsoever in taking this position. And then I work from there. From there, I go do Staley, then I go Ben Johnson. And like you said, both of those guys were very heavy in designing and developing play calls for that stretch where they started to put together games where that offense looked like it had a bit of a foundation and can run and be able to throw the ball well. And in the end, it turned out to help them win games. Those two guys were part of that foundation. But from there, it really becomes one of those things where you got to look at promoting somebody else, like a wide receivers coach or a passing game coordinator from another team. And I don't know what team you want to go to possibly do that. I mean, I think what has gone on in Cincinnati and what has gone on with San Francisco and what has gone on with the Chiefs have been pretty remarkable. With Cincinnati, you just kind of go back the last 2 years, you watch how that offense has evolved. And yeah, they've got a stud quarterback. Like, I think Joe Burrow is going to be that quarterback that is in that elite category very, very soon. You look at San Francisco, I think we all know what Jimmy Garoppolo is. Jimmy Garoppolo is like a worse version of Matt Stafford, or Matt Stafford is like the upgraded version of Jimmy Garoppolo. Not a great quarterback, a guy who can win you games, but has limitations. And Jimmy Garoppolo has been able to get that team into the playoffs, has been able to get that team to NFC championship games, has been able to get that team to play for a Super Bowl, hasn't been able to win the big game, but has been able to do those things. And I think you look at kind of what goes on with the offensive play calling there. Maybe not so much because Kyle Shanahan's the offensive guru on that team, but you look at maybe a passing game coordinator, you look at a wide receivers coach, somebody who has a hand in the mix there and has been able to glean a little bit of knowledge from what has really worked in San Francisco. And you can even look at Kansas City. I mean, yeah, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Tyreek Hill, you got some great players, but you got to remember, Andy Reid has a great coaching tree. And if you can work underneath Andy Reid, why the hell not grab one of those guys? Why not see if they can come over here and work? You know what I'm saying? And look, I know Matt Nagy worked under Andy Reid for a season, but go back, really look at that team and look at what those starters really did. Alex Smith didn't do a whole lot of great things that season that Matt Nagy was there. I was looking for things. I was looking for anything. Couldn't find it. So that's why I don't think Matt Nagy.
He's like, I tried. I tried to get somebody out there. No, I
was looking for anything so I could just be like, yeah, he did this. Nothing, bro.
Nothing. It's an idea to try and resurrect something, but the Lions are not in a position to try to throw shit against the wall. You know what I mean? So I think it's Ben Johnson. Do Staley outside chance. I think you just do the interviews to get a sense of like, what do you think of our offense? What do you think of DeAndre Swift, to pick people's brains on how you'd use them? It's so great in regards to how you can glean information in the National Football League by interviewing talented individuals. And I think that when Dan Campbell gets a chance to talk to Sean Payton, I think it'll be a great conversation. So I'm very happy in regards to how this is all going to go down for the Lions, Dan Campbell, and everybody involved. I think Senior Bowl week will help Dan Campbell evaluate the coaching staff. They'll get a chance to kind of get a little bit of information on scouting in regards to some of these players. So it's all good in the neighborhood and on that front. When you look at it in regards to the Lions, it's really important. They're going to have about 9-10 picks that they start to really target the players that, are going to really start to contribute sooner rather than later, because you don't want to have a situation where you build up a team and then when it's time to get the quarterback, you don't get the right one. So, or you don't build up enough of a team to get it done. So this is the time. This is a big draft. It's a big deal. So I'm excited to continue to see what's going on at the Senior Bowl, peek in, and then continue to cover everything going on with the Lions. Just kind of as it goes through the draft, as you look at free agency, that'll kick off. That'll be great to see how much they spend on who and what positions. So it'll be great to see as we continue this offseason. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this edition of Doc and Jock. Podcasting time is coming to a close. You can follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure, if you like or dislike anything we've said, hit us up with a tweet. Might get your tweet read on the air. Might get some interaction. Hey, if we like it, you might even get a retweet, which will help you get over and get people to see your stuff. 'Cause good stuff. I do want to end on this, okay? The funny part about sports is, you get a chance late night if the kids are asleep and the wife's asleep. You just start trolling around on Twitter and you start seeing what people are writing about. Last night on Tuesday, I came across a Twitter site with the sole purpose of trolling. And I was like, wait a minute. People are not buying this. The Twitter site's called Ballsack Sports. And I can't say it. I can't say it without laughing. Ballsack Sports is out there putting out news. And the best was a major news outlet reblogged them and aggregated their stuff. And the best tweet I think I've read this year was somebody embedded a tweet in a story from a site called Ballsack Sports. Did they not read the Twitter site? And Dickie V fell for it because it was so good. He wrote that Josh Smith was commenting about the LeBron James era. And Dickie V got in on it. And so I had to say, Mr. Dick, please, this is not real. But Ballsack Sports is, I have to give them credit. Typically, I'm not going to shout out other Twitter accounts. But if you're going to call yourself Ballsack Sports with the idea that you're going to put out fake shit, that's your agenda. And people buy it. It is the height of where we're at. It is the height of crazy media. Because you have to, when you embed something, it pops up, you see it. It says Ballsack Sports. And I saw that on Tuesday night. I was dying laughing. I think it was just, for me and my brain, I was just like, this is crazy that this guy's getting over on people and they're putting his shit in articles and saying, Josh Smith said this about LeBron, and then their tweets, it says Ballsack Sports. Oh man, that's what people do with their time. Can you believe someone did something like that so crazy?
I mean, yeah, but like,
Ballsack Sports.
Do you not have anything else you could be doing with your time?
Right, exactly. It's like, but, Barry McCockner is a good one. That's the best one out there. Have you seen that Twitter account?
No.
Oh, you've never seen it? Oh my God. You're going to get it's Barry. I must have sent you one or two. You just passed over it. But yeah, I'll go find it and see if it's still active. But yeah, there's a couple out there that are, there's one, I think, Stan's something that does Detroit stuff too, where they'll put out fake stuff and they'll put like their Sham Charania and put a spelling or Adam Sheeter and stuff like that. So it's good stuff. It's actually very funny. And I encourage you to find it because, man, there's some creative people out there. You wish they'd use their talent for good, but they're not. But, with that, we'll let everybody leave with a laugh. So I thank you, cuz. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, listening to the latest episode of Doc and Jock. It was put together on the fly, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the banter with Adam. He definitely is a Michigan diehard. And by the way, cuz, I do have to leave on a very positive note. Michigan State hoops whipped that ass against the substandard performance of Juwan Howard. And to show everybody that I'm not just some dickhead, if you think I'm just some dick, I was approved to cover that game. Me. But it was a Saturday. I got the announcement that I got approved on a very short notice. So what did I do? Cameron has been such a great, loyal supporter, and he's been hitting me up saying, hey, can I go cover this, go cover that? I'm
Bro, he also does great work.
Yeah, he does great work. Great photographer, great guy. One of the
he
first
makes you look good.
Yeah. one of the first supporters that we had on this network. And he's been asking, hey, can I go do this, go do that? I'm like, yes, go. I said, hey, Michigan slammed the door in his face and won't let him cover a game. Michigan State, so gracious. They took my pass and gave it to Cameron and let him have a seat, and they let him cover the game. And that's what I did. I gave him an opportunity to go cover it. He had a great time, even though he saw Michigan lose. He's a Michigan guy, so that's the kind of person I am. Is that if someone has a passion for something and they show something, then hey, I have no problem passing my seat to somebody else. And I loved it. It was good to see Michigan State handle business, but there's a makeup game. I'm a little concerned to see how Michigan responds when it's at the at Chrysler Arena. But that's here nor there. That will be for another episode. Podcasting time. Done, baby. I can't wait to break it all down. The big one, the big game is next week, the ultimate debate. Can't wait to have it with Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Peace out, everyone.